Defiance? Are you missing out on events like this one in and around in Defiance County? Well, don't worry, we're working on a really awesome project so you don't miss out on any other community events in and around the Defiance County area.
The DDVB is leading a charge to create a new community events calendar for here in Defiance County in partnership with Yodel. This new calendar will allow all community members and visitors to Defiance County the ability to access and locate all the events that we have here in Defiance County.
Our area is full of activities for groups of all ages, young children, young adults, senior citizens. We have it all here. We have balloon rides, we have car shows, we have all sorts of festivals. We have music, entertainment. Defiance truly is now an entertainment venue for Northwest Ohio.
This calendar has been supported by 50+ organizations in and around the Defiance County area. All of these organizations and businesses will have their events posted. These will include community festivals, business events, as well as school activities, so you're not going to want to miss out.
All Defiance County residents and visitors to Defiance County will benefit from checking out this calendar. You can save events to your own personal calendar, get updates of the events that you want to attend, and even schedule reminders for the events that are going on within the community.
We're proud of our events. We are proud of our event planners. They work very hard to plan these events for you. We truly do a lot of things here, and I would encourage you to visit our community calendar today so you never ever miss another event.
Be sure to check out the DDVB Facebook page as well as our website at visitdefianceohio.com to keep up to date on when this calendar will officially be launched and all of the great things that this calendar will offer for all of you here in Defiance County.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I know I've talked to a lot of you, but in case we have not ever met before, I am going to be your host today. My name is Rachel Shaw. I'm the Business Development Manager for Yodel Community Connections. And with me today is our co-host, Kirstie Mack from the Defiance Development and Visitors Bureau, who you just saw in that video. Kirstie came up with that video, did a fantastic job, and that actually was released to community members before they launched the Yodel Community Calendar in Defiance. She did such a fantastic job today. But welcome to the webinar, Keeping Money Local in Defiance, Ohio. We also do, I want to mention, we have Corey Loomis, our implementation manager, on the call as well today. She will be moderating the chat, so you might hear from her a couple of times. I know some of you today have met with Corey before and know her. So thank you all so much for being here. This webinar is designed for community leaders who are interested in increasing community engagement by keeping community members involved in local activities. And today you're going to learn about some interesting results from a recent national poll we conducted at Yodel, as well as hearing directly from Kirstie as I ask her some questions related to her experience as the director of the DDVB, the importance of keeping people engaged in Defiance, and how Yodel has played a part in all of this. Kirstie, as I mentioned, is the executive director at the DDVB, and she has been instrumental in the success of Defiance's calendar. She's an inventive, positive thinker who is always looking for ways to improve her community and bring folks together. It is really good to see some familiar names on this call today, though, you guys. I'm really excited that you all are here. If at any point you have a question, please feel free to drop it in the chat. We are going to go through a few slides before we turn it over to Kirstie for the Q&A. So as soon as we do reach that Q&A portion of the webinar today, we will be sure to answer any questions you might have. So again, thanks for being here, guys. So to kick things off, I actually have a question that I'd like to throw out there to this group. And I'm really curious to know, how do you think most members of your community are most often learning about events and local happenings? So let me throw this poll out here. All right, guys, you should be seeing the poll. Let me know if you don't. I'll give everybody a minute to answer here.
Can you hear us?
Rachel, can you hear
Yeah.
me?
Hi, Juanita.
Okay, I have a group here. We have our Chamber of Commerce administrator, and then our building commissioner and his administrative assistant.
That is great. Thanks for pulling the group together, Juanita. Everyone there is from, sorry if I'm not pronouncing this right, Rensselaer. Did I get it right? Rensselaer, Indiana?
Yes.
Awesome. Welcome, Team Rensselaer. Happy to have you here. We have a few more people. If you haven't answered the question yet, couple more, and then I will end the poll here. Cool. So here are the results. We are seeing, this is kind of what I was expecting. 73% are saying social media, 9% word of mouth, and then 18% all of the above. So that is kind of what I was expecting. Kind of surprised that we didn't see anyone vote for websites or Google. But totally agree with you. I think social media is a huge way for folks to find things to do in the community. So I'm going to stop sharing this. And the reason why I asked that question is because we actually recently conducted a national survey and we received over 300 responses. The results were super interesting. Here is a sneak peek to one of the answers that we actually got. So we asked the same question to over 300 Americans. They did not know who we were. And one of the questions we asked was, how do you learn about events and activities in your community? And this is pretty consistent with the poll that we just ran. Social media is up there. All of the above is up there. And that was the highest rated question. It's interesting because, you know, there's a lot of noise out there in the community. And when folks are trying to sift through all this information, it can be really challenging to find what they're looking for. So we're going to revisit this poll at the end of the webinar today. Just keep that in the back of your mind. I've had the opportunity to meet with most of you over the course of the past year. And I've learned a lot about your communities. And thank you so much for educating me, because I truly have learned a lot over the past year from you guys. And what's really interesting is that there are lots of commonalities when it comes to pain points that communities are feeling in terms of engagement. And these are some themes that I have heard from essentially everybody who is with us today. Constantly hearing things like, I didn't know that was going on. Community members giving you a call saying, I did not know that would happen last Saturday. Volunteerism is declining drastically, not even in the Midwest, but really all over the country that's happening. Organizations, maybe similar organizations in your community might be scheduling events on the same day because they didn't know that another organization was hosting a similar event. That's partially due to the fact that there might not be a centralized place to find everything. And then last but certainly not least, all of this noise out there, all of the changes with Facebook algorithms, social media is making it increasingly difficult for smaller organizations to reach their constituency. And it's driving community members away from local events, maybe bringing them to the larger cities or big pocketed organizations that can afford that. So this is exactly what our organization is striving to fix. Well, let's look at some things happening behind the scenes in Defiance before I turn it over to Kirstie. So we can actually track engagement of the Defiance calendar and the community itself through the sponsor dashboard via Yodel. And looking at Defiance, this is pretty exciting. They are seeing close to 22 events per day in their community. And I want to point out that last year, the Defiance calendar launched early to mid-October. And we actually saw close to a little over 4,000 views per month on the calendar, which is really exciting because Kirstie, correct me if I'm wrong, Defiance has about 20 to 25,000 people.
We have 17,000 in the city.
Okay.
And then we function kind of as a county whole a little bit. And our county is about 38,000. So.
Okay. Thank you.
Of course.
So pretty exciting since launch. They're really getting a lot of engagement, and that's really thanks to, in part, all the work that Kirstie is doing. Like I said, she's a really innovative thinker, very creative in how she's helped to launch this in her community. So I know that you all did not get on this webinar to listen to me blab. And Kirstie, I got to tell you, I really do think you're a community warrior. You have inspired me from the day I met you. I really think what you're doing for your community is awesome, and I've learned a lot from you. So I'm really excited to have you share your knowledge with this group. So let's jump right in. The first question is, just tell us about your
Thank you,
role
Rachel.
at the
I really
DDVB.
appreciate. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sure.
Tell us about your role at the DDVB.
Okay, so very quickly, my name is Kirstie Mack. I am the executive director here at the Defiance Development and Visitors Bureau. I know that name probably sounds very confusing. We do not do economic development. We are also a Main Street office. So we focus on downtown beautification and revitalization of the business structure as well as the building structure within our area. So I am obviously the director. We are an office of 3 people. We function and do a lot of things for the community. So we plan many events throughout the year. We work as a downtown liaison for our building owners as well as our business owners to maybe the city or the county. We work very, very closely with the city on city projects or county projects. One of the things that we also are very highly tasked to do is to promote our community. So many of you who are CVBs or chambers, you understand that role and how difficult that can be with the ever-changing dynamic of advertising and marketing and expectations of community members. So we're always looking at those needs and saying, where are we falling short? Where are our gaps? How can we do better for the greater good of the community?
And you do just that. I know that's your heightened focus in your community, and it's cool to see everything you're doing. So tell us a little bit about Defiance. Can you paint a picture of it for those on the call who maybe have never been there before?
Sure. So Defiance, Ohio, we are right in the middle of the hub of Northwest Ohio. We are exactly 1 hour from Fort Wayne, Indiana, Toledo, Ohio, Lima, Ohio, Findlay, Ohio, and then we are just right at an hour south of the Michigan border. So we really do feed into that. Our community is a small town, but we feed into the bigger community when they're looking for maybe a little small quaint area, or some of the smaller communities, they come to Defiance for maybe grocery shopping or for entertainment. So we like to say that we are small town, but yet we're fast paced, because we do have to try and keep up with the Joneses, as they say, or some of those larger communities, and offering some of the things that those large communities offer. Sorry, I have actually made notes, because if I don't, I can talk forever and then you guys will be very bored with the things I'm saying. So we do have a very progressive city and county administration right now. So we are always on the go. We are always looking at the next thing. Sometimes we feel like we're jumping into the next thing too quickly. But we like to stay on our toes, know the things that are going on and what we can do to help our community members. We know our community members want to have amenities within Defiance. Everybody has that social media page, and the questions come up, we feel like weekly. What do you want to see in Defiance, Ohio? And the statements come up, oh, we need to have a Chick-fil-A. We need to have this entertainment. We need to have this major entertainment piece. But when some of those things start popping up within our community, they don't get utilized. And so we're trying to figure out why that happens. And why our community members are comfortable driving an hour or two for those amenities or those types of events when we are hosting them right here within our community. We are extremely passionate. As Defiance leaders, we do feed into that name of Defiance very, very well. We dig in our heels, we fight for what we know is right, and we're going to do the best we can for our community across the board. And we will say that our leaders are working harder than ever to make sure that Defiance is on the map as much as it humanly can be, and also making sure that any of those events and activities that we're bringing here, we are making sure that as many of our community members as well as visitors know that Defiance has an opportunity to offer these things. So that's a little bit of Defiance. Hopefully you have a nice, pretty picture of what that looks like in your minds.
Yeah, that was awesome. I mean, I've had the opportunity to go to Defiance before. And something you just said is really interesting. You mentioned that some community members will drive an hour, maybe 2 hours outside of town. What kind of things are they leaving town to go do?
We ask that question all the time. We hear about concerts or restaurants, those kinds of things that they're traveling for. And when we come back to them and say, okay, you went to, we'll throw an example out there. You went to Outback Steakhouse and that was an hour away and you had to wait 45 minutes in line when you could have gone to this local restaurant and had such a great experience, because you also missed out on this live music opportunity or supporting this local promotion that was going on that was benefiting a local nonprofit, because you chose to go, to this outside location. There's a lot of confusion of, oh, well, I didn't know that was going on, or I didn't know that offering was available. And so that's where we're trying to work with Yodel and the community calendar to bring that to light as much as possible.
Why would you go to Outback when you could go to Dark Horse Social Club? That place is amazing.
Listen, we don't
Good
know.
recommendation.
We don't know. We're actually running a promotion in our community right now. It's our restaurant week. And we have an influencer here locally who is visiting all 50 of our locally owned restaurants and doing a review on them. So if anybody is interested in doing a restaurant week in your community, let me know, because we are having a blast.
That is so cool. I want to do that in my town because I love food.
Yes.
That sounds like my kind of job. I think our CEO might be on this webinar today, and Larry, maybe we can talk about that later. All right, next question for you, Kirstie. Why is it important to have community members attending events in Defiance?
Well, we've always said that you promote to your community first and your visitors second. You want to make sure that when you're having an event or activities in your community, that the positive word of mouth is coming from your community members first, and not just coming from those visiting outside of your community. Things were very backwards about 5 to 6 years ago. We had a lot of people traveling for our events and activities. And so we would see on social media, maybe somebody from an hour away traveled to our event, and they were blown away at how much fun they had or the amenities that Defiance had. And it's working on that community pride piece that if you don't have your local community members attending your events, there's a gap piece that needs to be filled. And that's why making sure you're promoting to your local community is extremely important, because you don't want them traveling an hour, 2 hours away to attend these events when they could have had a very similar experience within your local community. But maybe they just didn't understand what it was, or it wasn't being promoted to them. It was being promoted to an outside entity.
Yeah.
And again, when you're a smaller community and you are competing with those larger communities, it is super important to do some of that local target marketing to your community members, because the bigger stuff will get out there. You will have people traveling, or they're looking for certain things that will happen. But really targeting your local community and getting their support is definitely a great first step.
Sure. I love that you're doing that because I recently just moved to a community called Delaware. It's about 30 minutes north of Columbus. And I'm running into that problem in this
Mhm.
community is, I'm trying to find things to do locally. And when I go on Google, it tries to send me downtown Columbus. I'm like, I don't want to drive 40 minutes. I want to stay local. So I love that you're doing that. I think your efforts are definitely paying off.
Yeah. I would
The
say
next question, sorry.
you should probably go check out an Ohio Wesleyan University football game. My husband is an alum, and so he would love to know how things are doing down at OWU.
Hey, I didn't know he went there. That's awesome. It's a really
did.
cute campus.
Yes,
That's one of the
love
reasons why I
it.
love it here. Because I went
Mhm.
to OU and I'm all about the bricks and the old buildings and I love
Mhm.
it. So
Yes.
well, I'll have to do that and I'll definitely report back to you on how they're doing. How did pursuing Yodel help align with your goal of keeping dollars in Defiance?
So it goes back to, when you're supporting your local community and you're promoting to your local community, if you're having an event, if you're having an event inside of an area where there are local businesses already there and have their doors open, statistics say that they are 3 times more likely to have people spend money within inside of their storefront that day. So focusing on your community members, because that's also promotion for what your community has as well. So it's being able to tie all of those pieces together. It also helps on that focus marketing plan, again, for sure. What that means to focus on your community as a whole and not just promote it as the event. So it gives you that opportunity to promote your community right alongside of the event. So Yodel is helping with that because we are using that Yodel link throughout everybody's websites or newsletters or promotion on social media, any of those kinds of things. We are utilizing our community partners to utilize that anytime they're talking about an event going on. So it's helping as that focus marketing plan for sure. And then when you have, again, that one location where all community members can go, that as of right now, we believe it's holding about 90% of all of our local events that are happening. That helps the awareness piece. So you don't hear as much of the, well, I didn't know that was happening, or, oh, darn it, I missed that event. When as a event planner, as you all know, you work your butt off to promote events and activities going on. And the worst thing you can hear after what you maybe feel like is a successful event, that there is a demographic or a group of people that did not even know what was happening. So it could have even been more successful. So that's a knife to the heart situation. So, and then using Yodel Analytics is super, super, super helpful because you can use all of that information when you are aligning any of your marketing and promotion to show like, this is why we're doing this, and keeping all of those events and activities and the people in Defiance is super, super, super important.
I love that. And you mentioned something earlier that sparked in my head. You mentioned that you're working with a lot of key partners in the community. And I love that because that is so important to any type of initiative like this. I know you know that. Who are those key partners that you've been working with?
So we work with our one of our local high schools. They are a huge proponent for Yodel, and they are super helpful because they're hitting a completely different demographic than what we're hitting in school age kids and also their families. So maybe if we're missing them on social media or we're missing them on a mailer that we're doing, we are using that partnership to work on that promotion through the high school and the elementary school. We also partner heavily with our local chamber, our local economic development office, our United Way office, our foundation. And then we just, depending on what other things are going on or other events, we're really trying to stay as close as we can with all of those other event partners who make things happen within our community.
That's great. Okay. The next question we have is what prompted you to pursue an all-inclusive community calendar? What was that like one thing that was like, yep, we got to do this for our community?
It was the selling point of a one-stop shop. That was truly the selling point. When I became director 5 years ago, we had a community calendar for Defiance, and it was housed through our local United Way. Why,
I
we
didn't
have
know
no
that.
idea.
That I've never seen a United Way house a community calendar before.
Us either. And so it was confusing. It was a hard thing for United Way to promote because again, it didn't necessarily make sense. And it was outside of what their mission truly was as being a United Way. And so one of the first things I did was, can we take over that community calendar for you? Because it really does make more sense to be housed on our website than what it does on your website. So it was a great conversation piece that we had between the two offices and the past director and myself. And so that is where we went in and we started a community calendar through our website that was a manual entry on our end. And I can get into that in the next question.
Okay. So that next question is, what was your primary reason for selecting Yodel?
So because we were manually putting in every single community event, I know there's a lot of widgets out there and a lot of plugins for a lot of websites that allow you to do a lot of different things. We wanted to have a little bit more control in the beginning on what was going on the community calendar, what the look of the community calendar was, what pictures were put on there. We really wanted to make sure that when you went to the community calendar, you knew this is an event, this is the layout, this was your expectation. And we did that for about 4 years. We did it that way. My coworker, Lori, did all of that. And it took a lot of time out of her day because we always requested events be sent to us and that didn't always happen. So we were finding events happening within the community. And then we felt that extra responsibility to make sure that we knew every single event going on in the city of Defiance as well as Defiance County. So that was an extra burden placed on us because if we did miss something or something didn't get placed on the community calendar, we truly felt at fault. So when Yodel, when you guys all came and did your first presentation, we were ecstatic because we knew that some time was going to be opened up in Lori's schedule to be able to do some other things for the organization. And we also felt like it was going to be a much more seamless process than what we were doing beforehand. And it also gave the organizations a little bit more expectation on their end to make sure that they were getting their events updated appropriately, whether it's on their own websites or putting them in manually. But through using Yodel, we got that consistency piece as well. So it looks the same. We don't have a bunch of different things being popped up, et cetera, et cetera.
Very cool. How much time do you feel that you have saved for Lori on a weekly basis?
I definitely a lot. I mean, we started adding it up and we think it's almost 5 hours a week.
That's awesome. And she's amazing. Lori's great. I'm glad that she can, you know, put forth some of her efforts towards other things in the organization. That's awesome.
Yes.
Can you take a minute to describe the implementation process from your perspective? How'd that look and feel for you?
Sure. So the implementation process was ridiculously smooth. We were provided with step-by-step timelines, and the entire Yodel team stuck to those timelines. Even when we would completely forget that a Zoom call was happening, we were still, getting phone calls and, hey, are you guys still going to jump on this call? So we really appreciated that because we felt like we were able to complete this process at a reasonable rate, but we also had some flexibility options. We were told we could adjust things a little bit on our release of the actual calendar itself. We adjusted the 10-week timeline of the rollout process based on some holidays that were coming up. We had full opportunity to offer suggestions and ideas on what our personalized implementation process would look like. So that was huge for us because we felt like we were being guided, but we weren't directly being told this is how it's done and you don't have any options. You can't have any creative opportunity within the process. So that was super, super appreciative. All of our goals were listened to. And it made the process very smooth. And it also gave us an opportunity to get to know Corey, and she got to know us. And so we really were able to work on things through the process through our weekly meetings.
That is awesome. And kudos to Corey. If anyone has met Corey before on this webinar, she's just fantastic at her job. And she just kills the process. It's pretty awesome. We like to hype ourselves up a lot at Yodel too. We give lots of kudos. But thanks for that, Kirstie. I think this might be the last question. And I think I really just want to hear, like, from your personal standpoint, what is the most meaningful impact that the calendar has had for you so far?
It truly is that having everything in one place. That it has given me the opportunity to see things going on in this community that I feel like I have a really good handle on, but there are things that pop up that even I don't know are happening. But then in addition to that, my children's schools, they have their information all up on there as well. So I can go through there and I can say, okay, I know personally, we have this stuff going on. I know professionally we have this stuff going on, and it has helped us kind of keep our lives a little bit straighter. We're a family of 3 children who are extremely busy and all over the place, and very, very busy professional lives. We've been able to use this calendar personally to say, okay, here are the things that are going on. Put it in our phones, put it in our, like, my work calendar at work and everything. It has just made things a little bit smoother on our end. So we've really appreciated that. And it's also super, super easy to use. I am not the most techie. So it's nice when I can figure it out simply without stressing myself out.
I'm with you. I'm the same. And this has actually, like, motivated me to use a calendar. So, well, like I said, you are a warrior, because I don't know how you juggle being the director, managing a family, all the things you have, and it amazes me. So,
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for walking us through that. I actually took a couple notes because you mentioned a few things that I had no idea. So you always teach me something every time we talk, but I want to turn it over to the group. I'm sure some of you guys might have some questions for Kirstie. I did put her contact information here because she was gracious enough to say, hey, if you don't feel comfortable asking a question, you can reach out to her directly. But throw any questions you might have in the chat and we can answer those right now. Boone, I just saw your message.
I had to throw that in there.
I love it. Hi, Boone.
Hi. Actually, since I'm on, I have a question.
Go
So
for it.
we initially, just so everybody knows, I know Rachel has already talked with us about this, but we initially had our city mayor interested in doing the Yodel platform. And he proposed it to our Convention and Visitors Bureau, and then also our Chamber of Commerce as like a co-op program. The co-op, to me, unfortunately, seems like kind of a rough spot to be in, because we'd have to figure out who's paying for what and why and who's managing it and all of those sorts of things. So for us, it somewhat made sense to just kind of take ownership of the process if we were to move forward. We haven't said yes quite yet. Some of the concerns are because we are a visitors bureau and we're primarily focused on visitors to Athens County and not necessarily community members, what the overlap would be there. and how many community events are coming up and how we kind of formulate what that looks like for a visitor. So I guess my question is, in selecting all of the businesses that you decided to scrape from to put those community events on there, kind of what was the selection process there? And did you think about the community events and based on visitors? I know you're a visitors bureau, so I kind of wanted to get that perspective.
Sure. So we kind of started phasing out, actually. We started with the organizations within the community that do the big open community events. So one of the things that we started not doing in the beginning was, we all know that there are a lot of churches that do community events, but what we were looking at were, what are those big picture community events? What are the ones that people within the community attend, but also what are the ones where people travel? So that was kind of phase one. And those were the organizations like locally, we have a balloon fest put on by our United Way. We have a performing arts center that does multiple events throughout the year. We actually have 2 performing arts centers throughout the community that do things throughout the year. So that was a major addition piece. We had our organization, obviously. So any of those ones that do specific community events, that's where we focused first. And one of the things to tie back to as I know as a visitors bureau, one of those main mission pieces is to have people travel to stay in the hotels. And that's where a lot of our funding comes from. So I definitely understand that mission piece, but I would definitely not forget your local community members, because even though, they may not be the ones completely staying in the hotels all the time, they're the ones talking to family members who are traveling, encouraging them to attend these events with them, who then would be staying in the hotels. Because listen, nobody wants to go stay at a family member's house unless you absolutely have to. We all know better than that. We've all been in that scenario. So definitely don't forget about that demographic of people as well.
And then one last tag on to that. So in review of some of the examples and looking at the Defiance calendar, a lot of the overlap with sports programs seems to happen. So like all of the youth sports and all that stuff that of course would not be relevant to visitors coming in. And then you mentioned the churches. So we have like the pancake breakfast at the Ambets and the car show and stuff that would not necessarily be relevant. So I guess a concern of mine would be, even though those businesses might do events that we do want on there, we're going to get their whole swath of information that doesn't necessarily be on the event. And I know that we talked a little bit with Rachel about like being able to remove some events, and we can add events if we need to and things like that. But that's kind of where the headspace is right now. And the connection with the chamber might make sense for the local organizations, but I'm just having trouble processing that piece of, I don't want Joe's Pancake Breakfast to be listed on the events calendar.
Yeah. And I think that's where you have conversations with those organizations and you say, hey, you do this event. We want to make sure this specific event is on the calendar because it brings visitors. You can pick and choose as well. One of the things that we wanted to stay away from was having to manually put in all of the community events ourselves. That doesn't mean that you can't do it that way. You can utilize and say, hey, we want to use this community calendar because it really is that one-stop shop. But the way we're going to implement it is either we're going to have 2 or 3 partners and their calendars are going to sync, but everybody else's, we're going to either physically ask them to manually input their 1 event or their 2 events, or we're going to do it for them. So that would help limit some of those pieces that you see on our calendar that you maybe wouldn't want to see on yours.
Thanks for the question, Boone.
Yeah.
Anyone else have any questions? And feel free to hop off mute if you're comfortable with it, or you can throw it in the chat.
No, we're good on our end, Rachel.
Okay. Thanks, Juanita. I have a question for you, Kirstie.
Yeah.
How has the Defiance community responded to the calendar?
So it's been a little bit on the lower end, only because when we rolled it out, it was right at the end of our major event season. And we are getting to the point right now where we're ramping up our event season for 2023. So we're already starting to have people ask questions. Where do I find this information? Can you remind me how to do this? Or organizations saying, okay, remind me how to get my information up there if I'm manually putting it on. So we're starting to see a lot of those things pop up. We're also addressing some of our marketing on that specifically right now. That will be going out on social media, as well as a lot of our local channels. On reminder, make sure you're following this community calendar for literally everything going on, because there are so many people who contact us like, hey, is there an event going on this time or this time? And we have to remind them of some of those other things that are going on during that time frame, such as college graduation time, high school graduation time, spring break for a certain community or a certain school district. Those things are super important when it comes to planning an event, that utilizing the calendar with some of those extra pieces on there, it's all there across the board. You can see everything there. So that's super, super nice.
Cool. Anyone else have any other questions? If not, I'm gonna hopefully give you back a few minutes to your day. I have a few more things. Oh, thanks, Greg. Thank you, Nancy. So I'm going to move right ahead. But first, Kirstie, thank you so much again for
You're welcome.
the great Q&A session. I'm sure a lot of folks on here really appreciated hearing from someone who's been through the whole process. So, and you know your stuff too. Seriously, I wrote down a couple stats you mentioned.
Yeah.
Super interesting.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to cover a couple more things because I found it was kind of relative to what we talked about at the very beginning, what Kirstie has talked about with the importance of keeping dollars in your local community. And we recently ran that national survey at the very beginning, or I'm sorry, the end of December. We received responses from over 300 Americans all across the country. And the purpose of the study was determine sentiments across the country regarding people's engagement in their community. So the majority of respondents on this survey were aged 35 to 65. 53% of them were women, 47% were men. And when asked how long they lived in their community, 46% responded that they lived in their community for more than 10 years. So these questions here were some that we sought to answer in this survey. Questions like, what drives community involvement? What are you interested? What kinds of activities are you interested in doing locally? Are you interested in volunteer opportunities? A simple yes or no question. Things like that. And the results were really quite interesting. So here's one of many pieces of compelling data that we found from this survey. Nearly 90% of respondents answered yes to this question. And remember, nearly half of the respondents in the survey have lived in their communities for over 10 years. So it's pretty crazy to think that almost 100% of community members would attend more events in their community if they knew about them. You would think if you've lived there for 12 years, you know everything going on, and it's just simply not the case. What's also really interesting about this is that back in 2021, we ran a similar survey. We asked 200 people, are there events in your community that you wish you knew about? And 96% of those respondents answered yes. So you're probably thinking, okay, what does the survey have to do with me? Well, at no cost to you, sorry guys, we can actually do this in your community, this exact survey. So it's really simple. We would provide the survey to you and compile the data, and then we would analyze the results and compare them with the national averages that we have from this national survey. So these results are pretty cool. You'd be able to gain a better understanding of the sentiments of your community and help you make strategic decisions. So to get this survey, you can book a time on my calendar. We'll just talk for 10 minutes about how we do this. So let me I'll drop the link in the chat here in just a minute. So you can do that. And then I'll also send everyone a recap email with that link as well, in case you're interested. So as a way to say thank you so much for joining today, we are offering a $500 donation to a community organization of your choice if your community enrolls in the program before the end of the month. And in the past, we've donated to community foundations, educational organizations, and much, much more. So we are truly grateful for you hopping on here today. And thank you so much for joining us and for your interest in our mission. Kirstie, anything you'd like to add before I let the group get an extra 15 minutes back to their day today?
Nope, I don't believe so, but thank you all for listening to me. I was very nervous when Rachel asked me to do this because most of the time I don't believe that anybody wants to listen to what I say. So it's very exciting to see some of these things that we've been working on. We've been working with Yodel for about a year now, and we've loved every minute of it. We love working with the team. We've had an opportunity to have ideas and brainstorming sessions on how, as a community, we could utilize Yodel and do the best we can for our greater good in our community. So again, if anybody has any future questions on things, please do reach out to me, or obviously anybody on the Yodel team, and we will do our best for you.